2 summers ago, my mother-in-law asked what detergent I'd switched to. I hadn't switched anything. What I'd done was mix something in a mason jar that most laundry aisles will never sell you. Not because it's weak, not because it's outdated, but because once you see it work, you stop buying their whitening boosters entirely. It costs less than a bottle of stain spray. And after 2 washes, undershirts that had gone permanently gray, socks yellowed at the cuffs, went bright again. The kind of bright you only remember from childhood sheets. Here's the part that bothers people. Detergent brands don't want you making this at home, and that honestly is bad for their business. For the better part of 10 years, I did everything the laundry aisle told me to do. I bought the pods with the little colored chambers, the ones that promised to separate stain fighters from brighteners like it was some kind of chemistry breakthrough. I bought bleach in the spray bottle for spot treatment. I bought the blue cap detergent that advertised optical brightening technology right there on the label, like it came out of a lab instead of a marketing department. And for a while, I believed it was working. Then I'd pull a stack of folded whites out of the dryer and something would be off. Not dirty exactly, just tired looking. My husband's undershirts had this faint yellow ring settling into the collar no matter how new the shirt was. Our bed sheets, which I babied more than any other fabric in the house, had gone from crisp white to a soft, defeated gray that no amount of bleach seemed to touch anymore. Socks were the worst offenders. The toes and heels turned a color I can only describe as used. Work clothes looked permanently stained no matter how hot I washed them. I did what anyone does when the product isn't working. I bought a stronger version of the same product. More bleach, a pricier pod, a booster packet dropped in alongside the regular detergent, promising to reactivate whiteness. Nothing changed. Or worse, sometimes the whites looked bright for exactly 1 wash, then slid right back into gray by the 3rd. I even switched brands twice, thinking maybe it was the formula and not the method. Same result. Same gray creeping back in by the weekend. That drove me a little crazy, if I'm honest. I was spending real money chasing a result that never actually arrived. It just existed. Average, dingy. The kind of white that isn't white anymore. It's just the absence of a stain. I started to wonder if maybe this was just what happened to fabric over time. If brightness was something you only got to keep for the first few months a shirt was new. Then last winter I was helping my grandmother clean out a cedar chest, and I found an old laundry booklet tucked inside a mason jar full of buttons. The kind commercial laundromats used to hand out in the 1950s and 60s before whitening technology existed at all. It described a powder mix operators used on white linens, uniforms, and hospital sheets. Fabric that had to come out spotless every time, with none of the chemical shortcuts we have now. I read through it twice. Here's the part that clicks once you get it. Your whites don't go gray because they're lacking chemicals. They go gray because they're covered in something. Think about what actually touches a white shirt over months of wear. Body oils work into the fibers every single day, especially around collars, cuffs, and underarms, and they don't fully rinse out in a normal cycle. Hard water adds its own layer. Calcium and magnesium minerals bind to the fabric with every wash, building a dull, chalky film you can't see until it's already changed the color. If you live somewhere with hard water, you've probably noticed a faint stiffness in your towels too. That's the same film, just easier to feel than to see. Detergent itself leaves residue behind, especially in low-water, high-efficiency machines that use just enough water to clean, but not enough to rinse everything away. Deodorant and antiperspirant add aluminum compounds that yellow with heat and repeated washing, and fabric softener, the very thing marketed to make your laundry feel fresher, coats fibers in a waxy film that traps everything else underneath it. None of that has anything to do with a lack of whitening chemicals. It's buildup, layer after layer, wash after wash. Every optical brightener or bleach spray you add is going on top of that buildup instead of underneath it. Optical brighteners don't even clean anything. They're dyes that reflect light in a way that tricks your eye into seeing whiter for a few hours after the wash. It's a visual trick, not a fix. That's why the brightness fades so fast. You're not removing what's dulling the fabric. You're painting over it with light. The old booklet mentioned something else I hadn't thought about in years: sunlight. Before UV blocking dryer sheets and indoor drying became the norm, laundromats hung whites outside on purpose because sunlight breaks down residual buildup at a molecular level the same way it fades ink on paper left in a window. It's not magic, it's just a free, overlooked step. Most of us quietly gave up once dryers became the convenient default in every household. The old school powder works completely differently because it isn't trying to add whiteness at all. It's built to strip away what's already there: the oils, the mineral film, the residue, the softener coating, so the fabric can return to whatever its actual original color was underneath all of it. Stop adding brightness, start removing buildup. That's the whole shift. Once I understood that distinction, the rest of it, the actual mix, how to use it and where it falls short, started to make a lot more sense. All right, let's get into the actual mix. 3 ingredients, all sitting in the laundry aisle already, just not usually together. 1 cup of borax, 1 cup of washing soda, not baking soda, washing soda, a stronger alkaline cousin sold right next to it, and 1 bar of Fell's naphtha or zote soap, grated fine on a regular box grater. Grate the whole bar first. It takes about 5 minutes and turns into loose, curly shavings that look almost like cheese. Combine the shavings with the borax and washing soda in a large container with a lid, and shake until everything's evenly distributed. That's your base powder. One batch treats roughly 20 to 25 loads, depending on how heavily soiled your laundry usually runs. Store it somewhere cool and dry with the lid on tight. Moisture will clump the shavings and make it harder to measure accurately. For a regular load, use 2 tablespoons of the mixed powder along with your regular detergent. This isn't a replacement for detergent. It's a build-up stripping partner to it. For heavily grayed items, the socks, the collars, the work shirts that have been quietly declining for years, do a pre-soak instead. Dissolve a 1/4 cup of the powder in hot water in your sink or a bucket, submerge the item completely, and let it sit for at least an hour, ideally overnight. Then wash as normal. This method works best on natural fibers: cotton undershirts, cotton sheets, towels, cotton work clothes. Anything that can handle hot water and a stronger alkaline wash is a good candidate. Let me walk you through the 3 mistakes that cause people to write this method off entirely. Mistake number 1, using too much powder. More is not better here. If 2 tablespoons is good, a 1/4 cup is not automatically superior. It just means more alkaline residue sitting in the fibers after the rinse cycle, which can leave fabric feeling stiff or slightly chalky. Stick to the ratio. Mistake number 2, using it on the wrong fabric. I've heard from people who tried this on a delicate blouse or a wool sweater and ended up with a stretched, damaged mess. This mix is built for sturdy, everyday cottons, not for anything you'd hand wash or dry flat. Check the care label first. If the label says delicate, hand wash only, or dry clean only, just walk away. Mistake number 3, pairing it with fabric softener. This one undoes the entire point. Fabric softener coats fibers in a waxy film specifically designed to sit on top of the fabric, the exact opposite of what this powder is trying to do underneath. Skip the softener entirely on that load, at least until you've done 2 or 3 rounds and the buildup has genuinely lifted. One more limitation worth naming, honestly. If your water is extremely hard, you may need to run an extra rinse cycle afterward because mineral-heavy water can partially redeposit the very film you just removed. Not a deal breaker, just something to watch for the first few washes, especially if you're in an area known for hard water. A quick call to your local water utility can usually tell you where you stand. If you're not sure how hard your water is, most home improvement stores sell test strips for a few dollars, and it's worth checking once before you commit to a full routine. Now, here's the finishing move for anything that's been gray for years and isn't budging after 2 rounds. On a separate wash, add a half cup of oxygen-based bleach, the powder kind, not the chlorine spray, directly into the wash along with your regular detergent, no fabric softener. Hottest water the fabric label allows. Oxygen bleach works at a chemical level completely different from chlorine bleach. It breaks down organic buildup rather than just whitening on contact, which makes it a natural partner to the borax mix rather than a competing product. Within 2 to 3 washes using this combination, most people see undershirts, sheets, and socks return to a brightness they hadn't seen in years. Not because a new chemical got added, because everything that had been sitting on the fabric finally came off. It's worth saying, too, that this whole batch costs less than a single bottle of name brand stain spray, and it doesn't leave behind the heavy synthetic fragrance most whitening products are built around. If you've ever wondered why your clean laundry smells more like a candle aisle than actual clean fabric, that's the added fragrance doing the same job the optical brighteners do. Covering up rather than fixing. That's the real difference, plain and simple, between this and what's sold at the store. Detergent brands aren't in the business of removing buildup, because buildup is what keeps you buying the next stronger booster, the next brightening pod, the next spray. A powder that costs under $2 a batch and permanently fixes the actual problem isn't something they're ever going to put on a shelf next to their other products. Now you know why.